AI is a blanket term that means many different things depending on who you're talking to, the topics that are involved, and the different types of technology that you're using. It can mean a voice model that sounds like a human. It could mean a chatbot that chats back and forth. It can mean a video generation model. It can mean a data model that sources hundreds and hundreds of millions of windows of context to do mathematical equations. I could go on and on and on. There's so many different use cases for AI. However, they all rely on one underlying thing to get the best output possible. And in this video, I want to discuss exactly how to do that one thing at the highest level possible. And that thing is called context engineering. And so I have a full presentation that I spent a couple hours putting together for you guys. I think it's going to be super valuable. So this is going to be relevant for several different types of people. If you're a business owner and you're trying to figure out how to use AI better, this is going to help you. And by the way, if you want to know how to use AI more in your business or want to understand ways that AI can unlock more productivity, cut costs, save time, or increase revenue, book a call. I'll leave the link in the description. If you have a job and you're wondering, how can I get more use out of AI? It's not helping me as much. This video is also for you. And if you're just a person that just wants to know more about how to use AI in your regular life, maybe to help you cut the grass or to help you learn which car you should buy or whatever it is, this is going to be helpful as well. So we're going to go ahead and get into it. Once again, the premise is all about context engineering. It's not near as confusing and complicated as it sounds, but we're going to start breaking it down right now. So with context engineering, it's really going to allow you to unlock a lot of ability to have AI automation into your workflow, into your business, into your life, all the things we discussed. Let me pull this into the frame. And essentially what we're going to do is instead of having generic AI outputs, we're going to transform these into valuable business solutions, valuable job solutions, help you build scalable products. I mean, the list goes on. So there's really a lot of stuff that we can do with AI. And if I was trying to explain them all in this video, it would take us about 5 weeks. So anyways, with that said, what is context engineering? Well, my favorite quote of all time is from Andre Karpathy, who is a legend. He basically ran and built the Tesla neural network that is responsible for the full self-driving we're seeing with Tesla to this day. And his quote is, context engineering is the delicate art and science of filling the context window with just the right information. So what a lot of people do is they either provide way too little information or way too much. And we have context windows in AI. So when you hear about, this model has this context window, what that means is, I guess the most simple way to explain it is, a context window is the maximum amount of information or context that a model can use while it's generating an output for you. So if you put a book that is 10,000 pages in there, it's not going to be able to give you answers to all of those questions or to all of those pages because it's going to have a smaller context window than the entire book. And this is a big constraint on AI. Once we're able to unlock context windows, it's going to kind of unlock what I call V2 of artificial intelligence. And we're seeing it more and more. Apparently, Gemini 3.0 Pro is coming out, and it's going to have a million context window. We'll see what happens. I don't really believe it, to be honest. But anyways, so in practice, what is context engineering? It is not ordering a language model and telling it what to do. It is telling, and I've always said this from the beginning, it's more like working with a smart intern. It's like you're training an intern on how to do something. So you're not saying, hey, go do this for me. You're saying, hey, here's the outcome we want. Here's the process for how we do it. Here's what it looks like when we did it in the past. Now you try with this. So you think of it like AI is your intern. You provide examples, context, instructions, strategy, and you structure information to guide the AI towards quality outputs. And so like I was talking about, there's a lot of different ways that we can think about this. In our image over here, we have context engineering. So this could be RAG, which is retrieval automated generation. I think I just messed up that definition, but essentially what this is when you have a bunch of documents, for example, uploaded to a RAG engine, and you ask the LLM a question, instead of it giving you an answer based on what it was trained on, it will search the documents in the RAG, and it will give you a more specific, better answer, basically. Now, prompt engineering is very similar to context engineering. Memory, it all kind of plays together, essentially. So all these things work together to create context engineering. So the context engineering approach, the basic approach is, hey, write me a newsletter. So the basic approach is, hey, write me a newsletter. But the context engineering approach is thoughtfully providing all necessary context for quality output. So once again, like think of it as the intern. It's not your little slave that's just going to go do whatever you want. You got to really work with it and you got to instruct it. So define steps to follow in a process, define the right context for each step, and ensure consistent good outcomes. So this is going to be kind of hard for you guys to see, but basically it's just talking about the different types of context. So you could be a document, it could be a Word doc, it could be an image, it could be text, think of all the different ways that humans communicate, and that's all really the different ways that we can have context engineering. Now, if we think about task categories and context requirements, so with general knowledge tasks, math questions, invoicing, copy paste work, very minimal context is needed because these are kind of universal, and it's not that hard for the AI to do. It's actually very efficient at things like math. But when we're talking specific knowledge and creative tasks, this is where AI really struggles and breaks down to a certain extent. So if we're thinking about newsletter writing or ad creative design or sales copy creation or SEO article writing, extensive context is needed because you have domain expertise plus structured content, and it needs to spit it out in a way that is very easy to understand. Let me see if I can zoom in on this image for you guys. So this is not a great example. It's hard to see for you, but I'll include the presentation as well in the document, in the description. But basically, it's just showing all the different ways that AI can parse context and can understand it better. So there's a huge opportunity to learn how to do context engineering, whether you're wanting to build a business, whether you're wanting to improve your business, whether you want to be better at your job, whether you're wanting to just be more efficient in regular life. And so, businesses are already paying a premium for specific knowledge. So digital marketing, lead gen, content creation. AI can now automate actual work and not just intern tasks. But where the real competitive advantage comes in is most builders are just focused on simple tasks. Service automation has higher ROI potential, less competition in specialized automation. But when we're talking about context engineering, the 3 essential skills for success are going to be, or really when we're just talking about more so just optimizing and crushing it with AI, domain expertise. So first and foremost, you should be an expert in whatever you're trying to get AI to help you with, and your results will be way, way better. And with AI automation skills like, no-code platforms such as N8N, you can learn these in a matter of 2 months, and it can make you a beast when it comes to AI. The potential of N8N is seriously insane. And then context engineering, which we're talking about right now, is very overlooked, but it's critical because it's basically going to be what differentiates successful implementations with whatever it is that you're trying to use AI for. So you can think about it. Oh my God, this pissed me off. Sorry. We can think about it like in this little triangle here. If I can zoom in for you guys. So you have domain expertise, context engineering, and AI automation skills. So the blue is what is the typical focus, and the green is what I recommend you focus even more on. Not a lot of people are focusing on the context engineering, and I actually think that it's one of the most overlooked things in AI. So I have put together a 6-step context automation framework, and it really is simple, but essentially the way it works is it's just a systematic approach to using AI automation with context engineering. So first things you have to do is identify, what does a good outcome look like? What results are we happy with? And, when I was writing SOPs for my team back in the day, one thing I would do is definition of done. So this task is not done unless this has happened. Whatever this is, you decide. But number 2 is define all tasks required in the process. So tell them, what task are you going to have to do in this process? X, Y, and Z, right? Make sure it's all of these. Third, define the context data set for the process. So what context and what data sets are you going to use? Is it going to be images? Is it going to be documents? Is it going to be text? What is it going to be? What are you going to feed the system so that it has data and context to get whatever outputs that you need? And then you want to determine context needed for each step. So is there additional steps in the process? If so, what kind of context do they need in those steps? And then you're going to create instructions and prompts for each task. And, there's a tool called Clay AI, and it's like an AI workflow system for GTM, for B2B businesses. And what you can do is you create prompts for each step. So each step can be different, and you just add prompts to it essentially. And lastly, you want to test and optimize prompts, context, and processes. And that's a really important one, I would say, is you just have to test a lot and you just got to see what works, because usually what you start with is not what you're going to finish with. And you just have to the best teacher is doing, action is the best teacher. So step 1, like we said, we want to define good outcomes. So collect 2 to 3 examples of excellent outcomes. Research competitors or industry leaders if needed. Examples are the most important context piece. So if you can say, this is a good example, we want something like this, that's going to help the system significantly. And so if we're thinking about how to do it for a newsletter, so find newsletters you admire, identify what makes them effective, note the structure, tone, and content patterns, and then you feed that to the AI, and it's able to spit it out for you. It's almost like a miracle. Good examples provide clear patterns for AI to follow. Quality examples lead to quality outputs. So yes, you have to define what the outcomes actually are. Step 2, break down the process. Well, why break it down? You see, AI performs best with specific limited scope. Each step needs different context. That's where the prompting comes in. This enables human-in-the-loop verification. So if we're sticking with our newsletter example, we have 1, strategy generation, 2, subject line creation, 3, content drafting, 4, call to action writing, 5, image selection, okay? And on the right, we have a little example of a workflow in terms of what it would look like. So we have human workers on the left, we have the automations on the right, we have the context below, and they all work together to create an amazing output, product, whatever that is. So you want to start more granular steps than you think are necessary so that you can be more specific than even you thought was necessary. And then you want to break down complex tasks, and this is going to improve the reliability and the quality of the output that you're getting. Now, how about the context data set categories? Well, if I can zoom in here for you guys, there's 5 categories of context like we talked about. So process context, the workflow itself, steps, sequences, and dependencies. From there, we want to talk about outcome examples, reference materials, definition of done. This is what a good result looks like. From there, we want to have user context, so business information, tone, values, and guidelines. Next, we want to have audience context, demographics, pain points, ideal customer profiles. And lastly, external context. So this might be APIs, websites, competitor data, market information. And this is why the new web search feature on all the LLMs is so important, because it really provides a lot of additional context to your prompt that otherwise you wouldn't really have. Now, looking at our little graphic here, this is automated predictive maintenance in manufacturing. And you can think about the production line, how it goes to the data, how it goes to the production flows. It both goes to the data store, then it goes to all the other systems, then it goes to the AI and predictive analytics, and then it creates a dashboard and sends alerts. So that's kind of like a simple example of how this can work. But this page is really just all about context data set categories. Now, what about map context to each step? Well, I don't know why it's blurry for you guys, but user generated. So when we're thinking about mapping context to each step, we have direct input from the user, including business requirements, preferences, and specific instructions. Well, we also have AI generated, so output from previous steps in the process, creating a chain of context that builds upon itself. And then we also have external data, so information from APIs, web content, databases, and other external sources. But the key principle is, you don't want to overload with irrelevant data. You need to match the context to the specific task needs. Now, when we're talking about prompt engineering, this is something that gets a lot of hype and that a lot of people talk about. But a system prompt should include a clear objective for the task. It should have available context and how to use it. And you should have the expected output format. I cannot tell you enough how much that example of this is a good output matters when you're creating prompts. So this establishes the framework and constraints for the AI. And for the user prompts, you can provide specific context variables, examples and references, and task-specific information. Prompt engineering is a very important skill that many people lack. And they say, hey, I use ChatGPT all day, every day, but it's like you don't know how to use it or you're not using it correctly. Now, when it comes to testing and automation, we have prompts and context variables, so instructions, clarity, context combinations. We have language models, so you have GPT, Claude versus others. There's all performance differences. They all do better at different things. We have process structure, so granularity of steps, additional steps needed. Cost optimization, find the cheapest model that performs well. Balance between quality and cost. We have to test a lot if we want to get good results. You just can't get good output if you don't test. A really cool testing tool that I found is called Prometheus, and it's a specialized tool for testing and optimizing your context engineering. So it basically lets you test multiple prompts simultaneously, A/B test context variables, meaning the actual context that you're giving the model, compare language models, evaluate different data sets. And this can cut your time of investment by 80 to 90%. And it's critical for consistent outcomes. It directly impacts your ROI and scalability. So Prometheus, not associated with them, but it's an amazing tool. So at the end of the day, context engineering is a combination of things that go into using artificial intelligence. And it's everything like we talked about that you can potentially put into ChatGPT, for example. But the way that you structure it and the way that you provide the context is what makes all the difference in the world. And so you need to be very careful that your context engineering is on point. It's something you should practice. It's something you should improve. And over time, you will get much better at it. Someone left a comment asking if I could provide a video about context engineering, and here it is. So if you have a video or something you're stumped with or a bottleneck with AI that you're facing, leave a comment and I'll make a video on it. Make sure to subscribe, like, let me know your thoughts on this video. I hope it was helpful. I took a lot of time to put it together, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for your time.